Yeah, so on top there you got Sacré-Cœur, Montmartre, Montparnasse, that tall building, some incredible history.
Yeah. Outside.
As beautiful as that Eiffel Tower is, I'd love you to be beautiful in your seat, and let's start taking in
those memories.
A year out from Rugby World Cup 2023, 8th of September 2023 is 365 days away.
Wow.
The opening game of the Rugby World Cup 2023 happening on the 8th of September, where France take on New Zealand. We were both here back in 2007. Some special memories. I'm not quite sure, did you announce before that World Cup that you were retiring?
I did, yeah.
You did? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I did. That was going to be my final
swan song,
yeah.
Because it's actually funny, I think we chatted about it a little bit last year, that you were captain of England when I made my debut.
Yeah, I was. This young lad, this young Bryan Habana. Didn't know much about him.
But he was doing a lot of studying.
Yeah, and you scored as well, didn't you? You scored.
We won't go there, but Rugby World Cup 2023, I think for me, if we could just reflect on 2007, coming in as world champions, potentially not having the best run into the World Cup. I know we played each other in June that year. A lot of confusion, new coach, some players that weren't normally there.
Everything. There's a lot of confusion across the board.
I mean, how did you guys actually come into the World Cup as preparation mentally, knowing that you want to win it? Because you don't want to come to World Cup just to participate, and being the world champion, there's obviously a lot of pressure on your shoulders.
Yeah, I think for us, because we'd won it in 2003, there's obviously the added pressure, to do it again. And when I compare the two, it was just chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
We went into 2003, we had a settled team, we'd played together, we won together. So it was just, the team just really gelled. Then going into 2007, completely different. We didn't have a settled team. We had players playing that position. We weren't on form. New coaches, so there was a lot of disruption.
Yeah.
But it's a World Cup. So you prepare the best you can prepare and hope that somehow you find the form. We were looking to find our form in that World Cup, but it didn't go that way. Our first game against America, we managed to get through that game, but we went into that second game against a certain South Africa, and something, that was one of the worst times I've ever had on a rugby field. You expect if you're playing against South Africa, it's always going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
You never expected to win. But to lose 36 points to nil, that was traumatic. That was traumatic. And, I think we did a lot of soul searching after that, because we knew, listen, if we don't pull things together, we're not going to get out this pool, the pool stages. And we almost limped through. We limped through the pool stages, and then we somehow, backs against the wall. And I think that's what happens when you come into a World Cup. Form quite often is a good thing, but when you've got good players around you, world-class players, you know that you can find that. You just need another game. You need an opportunity, and sometimes it can bring the best out of you. When you have to perform. It's either we perform or we're going home. And we managed to just find a little bit.
And I think for me, because I was a young provincial rugby player when the 2003 Rugby World Cup happened, I'd heard the stories of that Springbok side targeting the England game in the group stages to make sure that they avoid New Zealand in a quarter-final. We all know about what happened with Kamstadrat, there's God Save the Queen being played, all the guys with this army, military-type training environment. And you soundly beat South Africa in 2003. And for us, Jake White had always spoken about, when he took over in 2004, that is the game for us that we need to be at our best for.
Yeah.
And he constantly spoke about equating to like a 59 in golf. I like to do a 59 on the front line. So, on a full 59 in golf, trying to get the best performance you put together. And for us, the preparation was also not ideal. We'd gone well against England in the summer.
Yeah.
We went poorly against New Zealand at home. Jake then sent a second string side over to Australasia to make sure that we prepare physically for that tournament. And I'll never forget, we had a sort of 2-day team building exercise where John Smith took us up the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal to his place. And along the way, we had the likes of Ostiran, the Bob Skinsat, we'd been there in 95, 99. the guy spoke about 2003 and how poor that was. And like all through that time period, the one thing John told us is that we're going to be outside of South Africa. We're not going to have family and friends, and we need to arrive in France like we've won it. And for me, I've never been to a World Cup, so you don't know what the experience is like. And I'm not sure if you remember, we got like those little berets when you land at the airport, and there's like, all the Marseillaise being sung. But I think that moment stuck with me where John said, we have to arrive like we won. And the preparation leading up to that England game was really important for us. And in my opinion, it's probably the most complete game of rugby I've been involved in. To come up against the world champions at a World Cup and do that was special. I mean, we had Samoa the first week, which, is physically bruising, the first game. Skalkberger then got cited, and he had a few legal issues, which made him sort of try to come back into it. I don't think he would have potentially played given today's rules. And we also lost almost to Tonga, literally the bounce of a ball up in Lens, where Jake put in the second stringers and we were all on the bench, and literally half-time.
They're the games everybody expects you to win, but they are tough games, they're physical games.
They are very, very tough games. So for us, England was the game we needed to target to be able to progress. And you say you limped through the quarterfinals. We were both in Marseille. You played on the Saturday, I played on the Sunday. I'll never forget experiencing that Sunday in the hotel, seeing what the French did, what France did to New Zealand over in Wales, then what England did to Australia. When everyone expected Australia with the likes of a Grieg and a Guitar, these phenomenal players, and somehow the collectedness of what you'd now gone through over the last 2-3 weeks post losing made something special. And it wasn't a try-scoring fest. I think Johnny scored 4 penalties that day, 12 points to 10. But just the resolve that you showed as a team was pretty important.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a statement from us. And again, we're talking about backlash because we'd been written off and nobody really gave us any hope. And as soon as we got through the pool stages and we knew it was Australia, we just knew we had to lift it a level. Down in Marseille, it was a really hot, sunny day. And we knew we had to come out of the blocks, and we knew certain things we were good at. Up front, we knew we had a really strong pack, and that's where we took them on. And it was amazing because everybody had written us off. All of a sudden, we get into that quarter-final in Marseille, and everybody from the UK is coming out. They just didn't have enough means to get everybody out there, but the atmosphere was unbelievable. And I just remember it wasn't a high-scoring game, like you say, but it was one of those games where right, the tide has started to turn now, and we got a big win there, and that night was massive and completely changed the whole of the tournament, because we beat Australia, which nobody thought we'd do, and then all of a sudden France are playing New Zealand in Wales and beat them, and it was like, okay, right, game on. So when you had to play the following day,
so when we played the following day, I'll never forget. Everyone was in complete and utter shock seeing what happened in Wales. Like no one, everyone had touted New Zealand as the world, the favourites to get, and they were playing phenomenal rugby. And I'll never forget walking out of my room in Marseille, and there was these stunned South African rugby players in the hallways, knowing that, okay, now we've got a great opportunity to actually win this, but realising that, okay, well, the underdogs won on Saturday. And the Marseille stadium, wasn't redone like it is now. So there was that open stand on the left-hand side. And that day for me was one that epitomized, I think, the need that we had to overcome. And 20 points all with 20 points to go. There was like probably a couple of thousand South Africans in the stands, but it felt like the whole world was against us that day. And given the underdog status that had proceeded to win on the Saturday, it was one of those moments in your career where you actually just had to stop and take in what was happening because you weren't sure where you were going. And luckily, the experience, the resolve that we had at the team, John Smith standing behind the pole saying, we're just better than this. We've trained too hard to let this be taken away from us. And knowing that New Zealand were no longer in it, knowing that Australia were no longer in it was great. And JP Peterson's try-saving tackle at 20 points all with 20 minutes to go turned the corner. And we ended up beating them, I think, 37-20. Semi-finals, there's always a lot of history between England and France. There's a lot of passion. I want to say a lot of niggle as well because of history between the two countries. The manner in which the England side on that day stepped up, I think physically, was really impressive from a South African perspective because, yes, we played against Argentina and we knew them. But I think what almost, I don't want to say frightened us, but seeing how, given that we'd beaten you 36-0 and this journey you'd now come on, particularly your forward pack sort of stepped up extremely physically that day. It was that classic, it was down the left-hand touchline, little chip kick over. And if it was Josh Lucy or Mark Winter, it was Josh Lucy, gathered the ball, bounced Damien Trell, I think, and went over the try line, which just showed the resolve, the physical attribute of that English side that, had literally come from the depths of despair.
Yeah, and I think that, it's amazing. You build some confidence from one game, that Australia game, all of a sudden you go in there. And I can remember it because it was my 50th cap. Amazing. And I got to lead England out. And that was quite a special moment for me, especially when I'd pulled my hamstring in the game against South Africa, the pool stages. So I never thought I was going to be playing again. So, any time, you play at the Stade de France, and especially against France, it's always going to be a tough game. The atmosphere is unbelievable. And for us, it was a case of, look, we have to match them. The confidence from our forwards the week before, we need to go out, we need to stop them. Because once the French side get going and the crowd get behind them, they're very difficult to stop. So for us, it was a case of, look, do whatever we can just to nullify everything they throw at us and just get on top of them. And we did that. And we had, obviously, Johnny with his boot. You mentioned the try we scored, but there's never going to be much in it. But you've just got to fight your way through those stages of the game. And, those playoff games are so different to the pool stages. You just got to find a way to win. And we somehow now had found a way to win. And we got what was a famous win. Again, nobody probably expected us to win because, there is an advantage by being on home soil. So to France, we're the favourites, but somehow we managed to do it on that day and crawl into a final.
I wouldn't quite say crawl. And I think for us, it was also very different. Argentina, in our semi-final, had obviously beaten France in the opening game of that World Cup in 2007. I think they then beat Scotland in the quarterfinal to sort of set up. And for me, to your point, knockout rugby, so much on the line. Singing the national anthems that day was probably the most nervous I'd ever been in my very young career because I was going well individually. There was a lot of talk about Bryan, and I'd then been named as one of the 5 players of the year. And everyone's now all of a sudden looking to you. And it was a bit weird because there was an added pressure now on me to continue performing. And I remember looking at the passion with which Argentina had beaten France in that first game, the resolve which then they showed, the steeliness of them coming through in that quarterfinal. And if ever anyone wants to see passion while a national anthem is being sung, look at the Argentinians. And I sort of and I probably shouldn't have, but as the national anthem was being sung, I sort of looked up and I just saw them crying. And I was like, we're in for a game today.
Someone was sobbing.
I was like, we're in for a game today. And there was just a lot going on. And it then went well for us. And I think there was probably about 15 minutes to go. And it's sort of been a to and fro, but we sort of edged the lead. And Argentina had just scored a try or kicked a penalty. And John Smith gathered the troops behind the poles. And he sort of came to me and he said, listen, I need you to do something to get us out of this.
No pressure.
I'm like, okay, well, we've got a bit of a buffer. And he said, I need you to score a try for us. And I'm like, John, okay, that's all. I've been trying to score a try for the last 70-odd minutes. And we had a scrum just outside our 22, Argentina on the attack. And Juan Hernandez, sort of came to the blind side where I was on. And Butch James, who could tackle, sort of came out of his corner and he popped the pass and intercepted just outside my 22 to run 70-odd meters and equal Jonah Loma's record, which was pretty special with Jonah being in the stands that day. And that semi-final victory was really sweet because we then knew, given what happened with the 36-0 in the pool stages, we were going to be facing England because the result obviously been the night before. But I think for us, also going from a semi-final to a final, given that you have in a World Cup, you have to be at your best for between 6 and 7 weeks. You can maybe slip up here or there, but 6 or 7 weeks, you have to be at your best. And I think where we were sort of on the upward curve or sort of the plateau, in terms of form, like that England side was sort of now sort of really climbing the hill. And I mean, the press conferences those week were absolutely insane. I'd never experienced anything like it. I mean, the cameras, they were like,
because huge attention.
Huge attention.
And in many ways it's good because you see the magnitude of what you're about to do. Because sometimes you are locked away in your hotel rooms and then you go to your training pitches and then to the stadiums. But actually, when the world's media turn up, you think, this is a big game. I've got to be on the money. So,
and your Saturday, because I'd love to just also reflect on the Saturday we had, but I know Prince William and Prince Harry were in town. What is your preparation like the Saturday leading into that game? What was that like?
I think with preparations, you just, no matter how big the game, you just try and keep to the same thing. So in the morning, wake up, have your breakfast, we go for a walk. Some of the forwards go through some of the line-outs with the backs. You just play a few games, just have a chat, just to make sure everybody's all right, and just try and keep it as relaxed as possible because you know what's coming. You don't want to waste too much nervous energy throughout the day. So you're just making sure you're hydrating and just doing all your basics, and then just thinking about certain parts of the game. I'd be thinking about certain strengths that you have and Percy, etc., and just knowing, right, okay, I need to nullify that, and for me, it was all about just trying to keep relaxed because as soon as you get to the stadium, everything, all the emotion, everything else starts to creep in, and then you can't suppress it then. For me, once you get to a stadium, so I would always try and keep calm in the lead up to kick off.
Was your family with you in France?
Yeah, and I think that was a great thing as well. Most people's families were able to, for us, most people's families were able to come out, and I don't know. It's always nice when your families are in the stand. You want to, do it for your country, but it's so much more personal when those that mean the most to you are in the stadium. And it was good to have them there for me.
Yeah. So our Saturday, we actually got woken up at about, if you're awake, but I'd like sleeping because it was a late game, so I like sleeping a little bit. And we all got like a text at about 8 or 8:30 in the morning, said, guys, listen, we have to be in the team room at 9 o'clock. It's like 9 o'clock, but we only said like 3 o'clock.
Wow,
so what's the
that is early.
So carry up, get down, Like, you guys World Cup final day. Like, what is the panic stations? And we get in and Jake White and John Smith address us, say, guys, the president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, has just flown in. He wants to come and just wish you all well. And and I was very much at that point of my career, like I didn't want sideshows. Like I just wanted to be in my bubble. Let me do. But then it is the president of your country. We'd seen Nelson Mandela here in Paris I think it was in week 2 or 3 of the tournament. We had that Madiba magic, and Thabo Mbeki then came in, said a few words, and you then had to sort of go from not wanting to concentrate on something that was non-existent for you, not doing it, and then switching yourself back into game mode, which was a difficult one, and none of us, I'd never experienced that before. So the morning of Test match, the president of your country comes to greet you and wish you well, and as massive honor and privilege that is, it almost breaks your flow, which was weird. I'd also had my girlfriend, I wasn't able to communicate with her from Friday. I'm like, Gus, this is my World Cup final. Like, where are you? What are you doing? And it was a pretty spectacular moment. She obviously sent a message, like let's say 7 on the Friday night, but then I hadn't heard from her post that. And I mean, for the biggest game of my life, I hadn't heard from the one person that I want to hear from. And I'll never forget walking out the tunnel. And as I look up on the right-hand side of the stands at the tunnel, my girlfriend was standing there. My dad had flown out from South Africa. She'd written an exam on the Friday. And just that emotion that was able to calm me, because you are nervous. Like if you've never played in a World Cup final, you just don't know how to handle it. And I sort of had this routine where I went to the left-hand corner, a little bit of visualization, take in all the sacrifice, all the effort, everything you've put in to get to that point, have a moment to appreciate the privilege. I mean, I honestly believe, we've been blessed with talent from God to do something we love and be given a platform and inspire and almost embrace that moment. And there's a lot talked about, pressure is a privilege, and we all work and put in the amount of time to get to the pinnacle. And there's nothing bigger than playing in a Rugby World Cup final. So seeing my girlfriend, we've now sort of taken a gap between writing exams on the Friday and the Monday, enjoying the moment of being, because it is a beautiful stadium.
Yeah. And you got to enjoy it because it goes
by so quickly. And the game itself was probably not the most flashy affair.
No.
There were moments of brilliance, Matt Tate breaking the line, incredible tackle by Victor Matfield. And probably one of the most talked about moments in the match was that Mark
Cueto toe in touch. Yeah.
I mean,
he still says to this day, definitely a try.
Definitely a try.
Yeah. But they're the small margins. That's could win you or lose you a World Cup. But I just remember it being just for every time I played against South Africa, I knew it was going to be a physical game. Most physical team for me in World Rugby, and I knew every time the ball is going to go up and just time it nicely. And I just used to get absolutely bashed every time. But it was good because you knew what was coming and you knew you just had to withstand that. But, it wasn't the open game that probably everybody wanted to see. And maybe a bit nerves, maybe just a bit of respect because we both know what each team can do. And it was a hard sort of fought when there was, there wasn't too much light between the two teams. And... I was struggling with a bit of my hamstring, but I ended up going off because of my shoulder. I got smashed again and ended up going off there. But it is a privilege to play in a final. You obviously want to win. Yeah. Finals are really there for winners. But I have to say, the best team actually won on the night.
And just the best team. I appreciate that, and I'd love to just reflect on. I made my debut with you as captain in 2004, and then you probably because you were in a lot of pain when you came off the field, and I actually got to shake your hand as you were going off, and it really for me as a youngster, having looked up to see what you'd given to the game, and you always want to be playing against the best players in the world and have that as a measurement tool. And I was extremely gutted for you because it came out this was going to be Jason's last game in England in the shirt, and no one wants to go off in their last game, particularly it being a Rugby World Cup final. But I think for me it was really special being able to have that embrace with you in your probably biggest moment of despair, in having to know it was the last time you're going to be walking off the field. And I've still got the photo on my computer because it is pretty special for me as someone who had been inspired to see what you did to the game. And for us, those moments of inspiration that we get, we all try to be optimistic, we all try to be passionate, but it's about getting to that biggest point. And for us, we knew defensively, because of what we saw in the semi-finals, what the England side did against the French, if we weren't physically, defensively up to the task, we'd be found wanting. And that tackle by Victor on Matt Tate, and I'm probably still of the opinion that even if England had scored that day, we'd have probably still won. But it was just that commitment that each and every player showed to make that last ditch tackle, to go that extra effort. And I'd love to quickly ask, just reflecting on 2003, everyone asks you, what was that final whistle? When the final whistle went, what was your emotion? And you'd come from league. Clive Woodward had involved you because he said he wanted you to be a part of something special. Yeah. You made an incredible impact in the game of rugby in a very short space of time, winning in 2003, scored a phenomenal try. For you, 2003 and winning it, the emotions that were going in your mind?
It's hard to describe, so hard to describe, because for me, rugby union wasn't my background. Yeah. So to come into international rugby union after a few years, it was November the 5th, I swapped over my first game in rugby union. So 3 years later, there I am in a World Cup final. And one of the key things for me was in finals, or in big games, you don't get that many chances. So for me to get the opportunity to, of Johnny Wilkinson to slide in the corner, I mean, you can see from that footage, the emotion. It was just an outpouring. I'm not normally, I'm probably quite reserved and low key, but that it was the pressure that I built up. The fact it was a final, the fact I just scored in England's. Well, I didn't know at the time, but it was became England's only ever try in a World Cup final. So, you see me just punching the ball there, just sheer emotion. And then when we won the game, it's a mixture of you've put so much. Everybody sees the game, but nobody really sees
what's been put in.
The 4 years before, the work that you've done, the build up, all the pressure, the sacrifices that you made, and it all comes down to this one game. 4 years of work, for some more, and then all of a sudden it's like the whistle goes, and it's like we've won. Do you know what I mean? And it's just that, and to see, grown men just hugging each other, crying, and it was just, I'm not sure what we would have done, because we put so much into it. What we would have done after, because it just, I don't know where we could have gone. Do you know what I mean? We'd have to go away for a year and just lick the wounds and come back. But just the best feeling I have ever had on a rugby field. Yeah. You'll meet people that have done some amazing things. Champions Cup, Premiership, they've done some amazing things. But it's not very often you can look someone in the eye and they know what that feeling's like, of scoring, of winning in a World Cup. And it's not then just the time you have with your team. It's what happens to a nation. What happened, and you've experienced that as well, where you've had the highs of winning a World Cup, but also then going back home and seeing those that have supported you and that feeling.
Quickly, just before I tell you that, your first person you embraced post the 2003 final, can you remember?
I think it was Lawrence Delalio.
Okay.
I think there's a picture of me. I think it looks a bit wrong because he's massive and he's trying to cuddle me like a little boy. But I think it was Lawrence Delalio, and then I remember then just running. I think I jumped on the shoulders of Will Greenwood, and it was just anybody. I need to hug somebody.
And the reason I asked that is because, and it actually looks potentially a lot worse than what it was, but I had this thing about trying to get mementos and rugby balls. And in the first game against Samoa, I'd scored 4 tries, and I'd try to get this rugby ball and take it as a match ball. And I was carrying this match ball off the field at Parc des Princes, and I had 6 gendarmerie around me, shouting at me to give the ball back. And I'm like, guys, no, take it, I don't want it. But in the World Cup final, Ferry Dupree kicked the ball out. And he kicked it out on the left-hand side of the field where I was, and I saw this ball going, and as I traced it, elation, but I saw the ball boy literally right there, and I ran to this French ball boy, and I was in my very broken French, ballon, s'il vous plaît, and this guy's looking at me, he's like, my job's on the line, I can't give it. Yeah. And the actual ball that Freddie Dupree had kicked into the stands sort of came hobbling down and landed in front of me, and I then managed to pick that ball up. Yeah. Take that ball and go jump on the rest of the team, which I don't think people understand, but I still now have that memento with me in my house that is really special. And to your point, all the sacrifice that you put in, that your family puts in, to get to that point, it's almost a sense of relief. And there's a classic moment of John Smith when the final whistle goes, dropping to his knees and shaking the referee's hand. And the referee was the first guy he hugged, but it was only because of the relief. Because you just put in so much, and people don't always get to see that. Yeah. And to your point, we went back to the hotel. Most of our families had come over to experience that, much like in 2003 when you were in Australia. We had the awards the Sunday night, so I actually remember I didn't sleep on the Saturday night after winning. My girlfriend would not just arrived on the Saturday morning. She was flying back at 9 o'clock that next morning. So we went straight through, enjoying the celebrations. We had some of the 95 Springboks, coming to celebrate with us. We had family members in the hotel. And then we had the awards, and because I was nominated, I didn't want to go overboard, because if you had to get up on stage and, having 2 left feet. But then getting on that plane and going back to South Africa and experiencing the difference you make in people's lives the manner in which you bring a nation together in celebration, because we know in this world there's just so much negativity, and the manner in which sport, and for us rugby, lifted people. I'll never forget scenes of 2003 and your bus going down, and I was like, there's just thousands upon thousands of people, and I was like, oh, well, I'm hoping like there'll be a few South Africans. And much like 2003, we were also outside of South Africa, so we didn't have an understanding, and there wasn't the Twitters of the world, you know, the Instagrams of the world. We were seeing how many Facebook friend requests we were getting. But we didn't actually, I mean, you were getting faxes and emails, and you know, we had put stuff, but we weren't fully cognizant of the support we had back home. And it's only when we got into our Tambo International, and it took us about an hour and a bit to come out of the terminal because the baggage carousel and all the security guards, and we came out there and we literally couldn't walk out the airport.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And then you just see people enjoying everything that you put in. Yes, for yourself, yes, for your family, yes, for your country, but celebrating greatness, which I think was phenomenal for us as a team, and in a country that is as divisive as South Africa and has such a very unique history, to see sport, and for us rugby being able to do that, it's what inspired me back in '95, and you know, we then witnessed it in 2019 again when Sia Khaleesi picked it up.